We're always hearing about how the future is coming. But what if it's already here? Today, we're going to unpack a vision that comes directly from a recent interview with a tech CEO, and it's a vision where AI-powered humanoid robots are changing everything, from the factory floor all the way to the modern battlefield. So let's dive in and break down what's actually happening right now.
Okay, and this is the quote that just stops you in your tracks, right? This is not some sci-fi movie plot. It's not a prediction for 2050. According to the source material for this explainer, this is happening right now. We are talking about thousands of humanoid robots being put into an active war zone. And that, right there, signals a massive shift in technology and, well, warfare itself.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to look at the robots that are literally on the ground in Ukraine. Then we'll zoom out and talk about the supersonic tsunami of AI that's really driving this whole thing. After that, we'll explore what this all means for the future of work. Then we'll get really specific about these new robotic soldiers. And finally, we're going to tackle the pretty wild idea that all of this could, somehow, lead to a more peaceful world.
Okay, first up, let's get right into the most immediate, most tangible part of this whole story. Robots in a live conflict. We're talking about a real company with real hardware making a direct impact today.
So, the company at the heart of all this is Foundation Future Industries. And they've apparently made a deal, brokered by the US, to send their humanoid robots into Ukraine for a very specific reason, to handle the kinds of operations that are just way too dangerous for human soldiers.
And here it is. This is the machine we're talking about, the Phantom Unit. It stands about 5'9", and its entire reason for existing is to act as a stand-in for a human soldier when things get really risky. The goal is simple, but it's also profound. Put a machine in harm's way, not a person.
But here's the thing. As wild as that deployment in Ukraine is, it's really just a single ripple. The CEO argues that it's all part of a much, much bigger wave, a massive technological shift that's pretty much about to wash over every single one of us.
The language here is so important. Supersonic tsunami. The CEO uses this really powerful metaphor to get across not just how big this change is going to be, but how incredibly fast. We're not talking about some slow, gradual evolution here. He's describing a sudden, overwhelming force.
So, why is it unstoppable? Why can't we just hit pause? Well, according to the CEO, it comes down to simple global competition. He basically argues that if the US were to slow down AI development, its rivals, like China, would just surge ahead. So you get this geopolitical arms race that makes the whole thing pretty much inevitable.
And to really hammer this home, he says this is as close to the singularity as we can be. For anyone who doesn't know, the singularity is this hypothetical moment where technology just starts growing so fast that it becomes uncontrollable and totally irreversible. He's saying this isn't just another tech trend, it's a fundamental turning point for humanity. Okay, so if this tsunami is really on its way, what does that mean for you and me? For our jobs? Well, the first major area of disruption is, of course, the economy and the whole concept of work as we know it.
So the CEO is pointing to some pretty staggering predictions from others in the AI space. One of the big ones he mentions suggests that AI could wipe out 50% of entry-level, white-collar jobs in just the next 1 to 5 years. And he adds that basically any job that's repetitive, even if it's intellectually demanding, is potentially on the chopping block.
And this really sets up two completely different timelines, almost like two different futures. On one hand, in the short term, the CEO is warning of a very disruptive change that governments are going to have a really hard time dealing with. But on the other hand, his long-term vision is incredibly optimistic. A future where AI does all the work and everyone's basic needs, good housing, healthcare, education, are just taken care of.
And this really gets to the core of his whole philosophy on work. He calls our current system a kind of financial slavery, where most people are forced to do jobs they don't even like just to survive. The huge promise of this AI future, as he sees it, is finally freeing people up to pursue what they actually enjoy doing.
All right, so let's circle back to the military side of things for a minute and get really specific. What exactly are these phantom units doing over in Ukraine? Well, the key thing to come out of the interview is that their roles are very specifically non-combat. The interview breaks it down into 3 key jobs these robots are doing. First up, logistics. They're sending a robot out to pick up supplies so a human soldier doesn't have to get exposed to a drone attack. Second, they're doing maintenance and inspection work behind the lines. And third, reconnaissance.
You send a robot into a building first to make sure it's safe before any soldiers have to go inside.
Okay, so the next thing the source brings up is this number. Just 20,000. What on earth could that be about?
Well, it turns out that's how many cars these exact same robot models helped build in US factories just last year. And this is a really critical point. This isn't just some specialized military tech. It's dual-use technology that's already being used in regular manufacturing. That really shows you how versatile and mature this tech already is.
And all of this, it leads us to the final and maybe the most mind-bending idea from the entire interview. The CEO connects all these different threads, the tech, the economy, the military, to make a really startling argument about the future of global peace.
And there it is, right there. His big thesis. He believes that putting more humanoid robots into the military will actually lead to more peace around the world. It's a pretty wild idea, right? So how does he figure?
Basically, it all comes down to the old idea of peace through strength. The argument goes like this. If a country has a military with hundreds of thousands of advanced, ready-to-go humanoid robots, what adversary is ever going to want to challenge it? In theory, that overwhelming technological advantage would be the ultimate deterrent to war.
And that's really what we're left with, isn't it? This one huge final question. The CEO has laid out this vision where technology could potentially solve two of humanity's oldest problems, the burden of work and the human cost of war. If he's right, and this technology is really here, what does that future actually look like for all of us? That's the explainer for this time. Thanks for watching.